Abu Muhammad al-Hassan ibn Al Haytham or Ibn Al Haytham Basra, 965 Cairo 1039, known in intellectual circles scholar in the West by the name of Alhazen, was an expert Islamic scientist in science, astronomy, mathematics, geometry, medicine, and philosophy. Many also did research on light, and have given inspiration to Western scientists such as Boger, Bacon, and Kepler in creating microscopes and telescopes, but his name became famous in Egypt when Islamic government led by Caliph Al-Hakim 9961020. Although this figure is better known in the fields of science and medicine, but he also had high proficiency in the fields of religion, philosophy, and so, one of these figures is Ibn Al Haytham, or his real name is Abu-Ali Muhammad al-Hassan ibn Al Haytham. Abu-Ali Muhammad bin Alhazen bin Al-Haytham al-Basri al-Misri. He is better known by the pseudonym Ibn Al-Haytham. In the Western world, he has been known by several names such as Alhazen, Avanassan, and Avenatan, but is more popularly known as Alhazen. Born in 354 hours together was 965 AD. It was in these two cities that he started his early education before being sworn in became a government employee in the city of his birth. After a while serving the government there, he made a decision migrated to Awaz in Baghdad. In overseas he has continued study and concentrate on the world of writing. Ibn al-Haytham's intellectual intelligence was proven when he was still being a student with his inclination towards various knowledge fields. He never gets tired of gaining knowledge, either religion or general knowledge such as mathematics, physics, astronomy, medicine, philosophy, logic, and more. He is one of the character's famous scientific scholar and renowned for the height of his knowledge at Arab lands and on the continent of Europe in his time. His fame as a scientist led to the Bani government, the Fatimids in Egypt at that time, namely the government of Caliph Al-Hakim bin Amarilla 386-411-H99610-1 invited him to Egypt, meaning the invitation of the Fatimid dynasty was to utilize the knowledge possessed by the Fatimids. Ibn al-Haytham, he is expected to overcome the floods of the Nile River frequently hit the country every year. Unfortunately, he couldn't realizing the design he made due to a lack of sophisticated equipment that existed at that time. To protect himself from the wrath of the government, he then leaves the job feigning memory loss. So that in 1021 when Sultan Al-Hakim bin Amarilla died, and from that history, Ibn al-Haytham returned to normal and was active in science activities. Ibn al-Haytham came to take refuge and devote himself to the University Al-Azhar, and continues his scientific endeavors in the scientific field. He also helped translate math and astronomy books into Indonesian Arabic, especially from Latin. Before that, he had gone to Andalusia, Spain, the Mecca of knowledge, European knowledge at that time. There he studied optics until he is well known in this field. In recent years before his death, he returned to Cairo, Egypt. Ibn al-Haytham died in Cairo in 1039 AD when he was 74 years. History records one of the foundations of optical physics, Islamic scholar Ibn Al Haytham, or known in the West as Alhazen, Alhazen or Avinitan. Great scientist who has a full name Abu'ali Alhazen ibn al-Haytham al-Basri al-Misri was born in Basra, Iraq in 965 AD. He managed education in Basra and Baghdad. His mastery of mathematics by Max Meyerhoff, a considered historian, outperformed Euclid and Ptolemy. After finishing in the two cities, Ibn Haytham continued his education in Egypt and worked under the reign of Caliph Al-Hakim 996–1020 AD from the Fatimid Dawla. He also visited Spain to complete some of his scientific work. Like other Islamic scholars, Ibn Haytham or Alhazen not only mastered physics, optics, but also philosophy, mathematics, and medicine or pharmacology. Not less than 200 Ibn Haytham produced scientific works on various fields throughout his life. Since childhood, Ibn Al Haytham, who has a thin brain, has been pursuing education in his homeland. He started his career as an employee government in Basra. However, he did not feel at home for long in his career bureaucratic world. Ibn Al Haytham, who was more interested in gaining knowledge, finally decided to quit as a government employee. Ibn Al Haytham grew up in a family that is familiar with the world science. Love for science led him to move to Egypt to continue their education at Al-Azhar University. He chose to migrate to Alhazen, the intellectual center of the world at that time, namely the city Baghdad. In both cities he received various knowledge. His scientific passion high tide carried him to Egypt. Actually, Ibn al-Haytham moved to Cairo at the invitation of the sixth Fatimid Caliph Abu'ali Mansur Tariq al-Hakim, or better known as al-Hakim by Amarullah. Because he was known as a great engineer, the Caliph asked Ibn al-Haytham to cope with the constant flooding of the Nile. Previously, Ibn al-Haytham was very confident in saying that he was able to regulate and cope with the flood. After getting the order to begin the flood countermeasures operation, he began to realize that the mathematical calculations and technical plans it proposes are not able to cope with the flood. Worried about getting wrath and the death sentence of the Caliph, Ibn al-Haytham suffered from mental stress very heavy and decided to withdraw from the world of engineering. He was contemporaries with other well-known Muslim scientists, namely Abu al-Wafa Bujani Nasaburi, Abu Rahman ash-Shufi ar-Razi, and Abu Sal Kuhistani Tabristani, once known as a Sufi and has loyalty to the Sharia, in the end had settled in Morocco. Muslim scholars who are quite respected in the East and West. He has contributed his knowledge from the 11th to 20th centuries. Historian at Harvard University, George Sardin, author of A History of Science, called Al-Hassan as the greatest Muslim physicist and one of the greatest students of optic. The greatest Muslim physicist and one greatest optical scientist of all ages. Although he made contributions majoring in mathematics and astronomy, in physics he achieved striking feats. Thank you for watching. I hope it's useful.